so good to see everyone in person today. This is amazing. I've missed this so much. There's a couple of you that I've been coming to Creative Mornings for, I don't know, roughly 4 years, give or take. And there's a couple of you who have been coming the entire time I've been coming. And I told a couple of you, it's so good to see you at my Creative Mornings. Like, what a journey. So I actually want to start off today by asking everyone here a question. Who here's been talking with someone, communicating with someone in some way, and what you're saying just isn't landing? You know, it's not resonating as you hoped. They're not picking up what you're putting down. It's just clear that the person you're talking to doesn't care as much as you hope they care about what you're saying. Raise your hand if that's ever happened to you. Yeah, everybody, right? A couple of those hands up went up real fast, by the way. So this is a universal experience that we have, a shared experience. And it really gets to the core of the talk that I want to talk about today. And that's maybe. It's coming. Nope. The core of my talk today is about defeating apathy. Perfect. Worked out just like I planned it. So, I really, really believe that if we can make each other care more, that we can do anything. We can create a better community. We can start better businesses. We can be better employees, be better neighbors, be better people, right? My friend Melanie, who's amazing, reminded me of a really cool Dr. Seuss quote. If people like you don't care a whole awful lot, it's not going to get better. It's not. And Dr. Seuss knows what he's talking about. He also has bars. But and it's just so true. If we don't care, things will not get better, right? So I'm also a big believer in focusing on what we can control and leaving the rest to the wayside, right? Especially right now in our society where there's so many things out of our control. Pandemics, wars, right? So much. But one thing we can control are the words that come out of our mouth, the way we communicate with each other, the information and the content that we put out in the world. We can control this. And so we might as well do it in a way that makes people care, right? And so this is what I want to do. I'm going to do something a little crazy. Instead of the normal Q&A at the end that we always do, what I want to do is have you guys think about what you thought about when you raised your hand, or maybe think about something you have coming up that you need to talk about that's super important to you, right? Think about that while I'm talking. And my promise is that I'm going to give you the tools, the ideas, the framing to speak about those in a way that make people care about what you're saying about, that make we the people give a shit, like the title says. And so to back up that promise, though, what I want to do is I'm going to ask for a couple volunteers at the end, and you're going to share what you're thinking about. And on the spot, you're going to put me on the hot seat, and we're going to come up with a communications or messaging plan right here. And so you can leave the theater and talk about what you want to talk about in a way that makes people care. Does that sound good to everybody? Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so next slide. Yeah, there I am. I'm the one on the right. So one of my earliest memories is actually riding in the back seat of my parents' old hand-me-down Oldsmobile that they had. It had the big back bench seat that in the summer the seats would get so hot they would burn the back of your legs if you jumped in too fast. In the winter, this car was just freezing in general. And I distinctly remember what this car smelled like. It smelled like stale cigarette smoke and weed. The car smelled like weed a lot. And I'm riding in the back seat, it's nighttime, my mom's in the passenger seat, my dad's driving, and I'm sitting there, and I am absolutely terrified. Just terrified. I'm terrified because there's red and blue lights spinning all around us. There's a police officer standing at the window. And I don't know if I knew exactly what was happening at that age, to be honest, but I just remember things weren't going well. That you could feel the tension in the air. You could swim through it. Cop's asking my dad for his information, right? Driver's license, registration. There's some back and forth. Cop goes back to his cop car. At that point, my dad turns to my mom, and I can see his face from the back seat. And his face is pale. He's scared, too. You see, my dad was scared because he knew that there was about a 90% chance that he was going to jail that night. He knew that when that cop ran his information, it was going to come back that he had a suspended driver's license that he was driving on. He also had a warrant out for his arrest from unpaid speeding tickets. And so he was scared, for sure. And at this point, he starts doing what you do, as it turns out, when you think you're going to jail. He starts taking keys off of his key ring and giving them to my mom just in case the car got impounded. He empties his wallet, right? Gives the cash and cards to my mom. He grabs a jacket because he knows that holding cells are infamously freezing, and he doesn't know how long he's going to be stuck in one because he also has no idea how he's going to pay bail. So while my dad is doing all this, right, what seems like an eternity, the cop walks back up to the window. He doesn't look happy. He's got my dad's information in one hand, and he's got one of those giant mag-light flashlights in another hand. He's shining it around the car, right, center console, on the floors, right, goes to the back seat, goes to the floor, and then he shines it right in my face. And I'm sure he was just checking on me, to be honest, to make sure that I was okay. But at the time, being a young kid, it's terrifying when some stranger just shines a light in your face. It doesn't make you feel good or safe. So, goes back to my dad. Cop takes a deep breath, and then he says, "This is what we're going to do. Your wife's going to switch with you. She's going to drive the car home. You're going to park the car. You're going to get all this stuff figured out before you drive again. And if I catch you driving again, I'm going to take you to jail on the spot. Are you okay with that?" Of course, my dad was okay with that. They switched spots, go home. Everything was okay. In this moment, this cop showed my parents, and my dad especially, an immense amount of grace, right? And I'm really thankful for that. But also, being an adult now in 2022, I can't help but think that if my family was black, if my family was Latino or Hispanic, would that same grace have been shown to us? I don't know. I just don't know. It's a roll of the dice, right? What I do know, though, is that right now in Marion County, in Indianapolis, there's roughly 130,000 or so people with a suspended license right now. 130,000. It's insane. It's insanity. And many of who are probably driving illegally because they have to, right? They have to drive their kids to school. They have to go to work to get out of this cycle of poverty that my parents were stuck in, right? And just like my dad, they have no one to help them get out of this cycle of poverty. Except for, in Marion County, we also have the state's largest driver's license restoration program, thanks to the Marion County prosecutor, Ryan Mears, who's in the audience today. Helping thousands of people waive fees, reinstate licenses. He does this because he knows it's the right thing and it's always the right time to do the right thing. But he also knows that it's a public safety measure, right? People have jobs, people have hope and opportunity. They're not committing crimes. They're not in the system, if you will. And I tell you all of this, not because I love talking about times my family struggled, or even talking about how proud I am of some of the programs that Ryan Mears is running. But I tell you this because it really showcases how I can communicate with an audience of 200 people and make you care about people getting their license back, right? You walked into this room, probably did not care or even know that that was an issue people in Indianapolis are facing, and now you care. And it just showcases how we can communicate with each other in a way that allows us to make people care, right? That allows we the people to give a shit about what's going on with each other. And so what I want to do today, and be thinking of those examples, right, that you thought of when you raised your hand or something coming up that you have to communicate. What I want to do is break down the framing and the 4 major things that I did in that story, right, to make it so that you guys would care about what I'm saying. All right, working like a charm. So priming, and actually before we get to priming, I actually want to talk about framing real fast because I've said it a million times already in this talk, and I think we need a shared definition, right? And so my favorite definition of framing actually comes from George Lakoff. He's commonly known as the godfather of framing. Bye. He's commonly known as the godfather of framing. He wrote the book, Don't Think of an Elephant. And what do you do when I say don't think of an elephant? Think of an elephant, thank you, yeah. And so his definition is taking an idea, so the ideas that you have in your head right now, right? Taking an idea and defining it in a way that allows us to connect with it. That's what framing does, right? And so we're taking ideas, defining them in a way that allows people to connect with it, right? And we know if we can connect with things, we can care about things. So this is super important. All right, so priming. Priming is the one we use the most. It's the one that organically happens the most. We use it constantly. In fact, so let me ask for some help again. I want you to raise your hand if you've ever bought a car, ridden in a car, and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere you go and you never saw it before. Yeah, everybody, right? Yeah. All right, so that's priming, basically. You primed your brain to think about that car, right? Another one, raise your hand if you've ever been in a conversation or an argument and you think of the perfect thing to say after it's over. Right, everybody, right? Yeah. So that's priming. Priming lays down the mental railroad tracks to where we're going. We often see priming done intentionally, especially in politics. We often see it. We connect candidate A, or even other in nonprofits and other organizations, but we connect candidate A with positive thing, right? And the more we repeat that, the more repetition, our brain remembers that and connects it. And so then when you see the candidate, you have a positive feeling about that, right? And so then it's used the opposite way, of course, as well, in attack ads and things like that, right? Candidate with negative thing, and then we're supposed to think of the negative or implications of them. So that's priming. We do it constantly, and we don't even know it. So, storytelling. And so this one's pretty obvious. We all know stories work. I told a personal story at the beginning here. Stories add familiarity. They add trust. And most importantly to me, stories allow you, the listener, to come in from where you are instead of me forcing something on you, right? You were allowed to listen to that story from me being a kid, and it brought you into the scene, and it brought you into caring about what happened to me and my family, right? And then therefore connecting, caring about what happens to people in the future with driver's license. So storytelling is incredibly important. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because honestly, we all know what storytelling is, right? You can watch a Pixar movie, you'll be all right. But storytelling works, and including myself, we all could be better at storytelling, and so something to focus on. All right, so these next two, first one is shared values, not problems, right? This is so important, and we screw this up so much. If any of you right now open Twitter, please don't, but if you open Twitter right now, I guarantee everything you read will be people complaining about problems, pointing out things that, said politician did, said organization sucks at, right? The city sucks at doing this, there's a million potholes out there, right? And it's a natural thing to commiserate with each other, but what it doesn't do, it doesn't give us hope. It doesn't connect each other. It doesn't allow us to uplift each other in a way that makes people care, right? There's an amazing linguist from Wisconsin, Anat Shankoran-Sario, that I love, that you all should look up and follow. But she says it's like selling a ticket to the Titanic, right? No one wants to get on that boat, right? And so if we're always complaining, if we're always leading with our problems, right? Go back to priming, right? If we're leading with our problems all the time, what do we connect? What's the emotion that we connect with each other when we're doing that, right? Negativity. And so if you're always leading with your problems, people probably don't like listening to you, straight up, right? We all know those people who are just a fucking fun sponge, right? They suck to be around, right? So yeah, we all have those people that we know in our lives, and so it just doesn't uplift people. It's not a good communication tactic ever, And so, speaking of, there's hold please. There's an amazing organization that does this that I really have a great example of. They meet every month. They have guests come in and speak to people. Oh, Creative Mornings, right? We lead with our shared values every single time we start one of these. And it's amazing, right? It sets you in the mood. It primes you. It sets those mental railroad tracks to where we're going, right? It allows you to listen to me in a way that your mind is set for. It allows you to leave this room caring about our community, making sure that we know everyone is welcome, right? And so we do this all the time, but we just don't recognize it, and it's such a successful thing that we can do in communications more and more, right? Is leading with our shared values and not our problems. When Ryan was talking about calling out the asshole Senator Braun earlier, I was like, hey, by the way, let's not lead with our problems on that one. let's make sure we have some shared values in there also. All right. And so the last one is my favorite, actually. It's also something we do quite often, especially our friends in the nonprofit world or city world or government work. We're constantly talking about our programs, right? Our 16 bullet points that are gonna, bring something cool to us. But instead we need to paint a very clear picture of the future. And if we can paint a clear picture of the future, we can get people to buy in, we can get people to care about what's going on, right? We can get you to care a whole awful lot, so things will get better. And again, going back to Anat Shankar-Osorio, who's amazing, she has a quote on this that I really love and kind of makes us take a little bit of a journey. And so, say you are really craving brownies, right? Maybe you were riding in my parents' Oldsmobile also. You were really craving these brownies, right? And so you're going to the grocery store, right? Walking to the grocery store, and you get to the box brownie aisle, right? You're looking at the boxes. What's on the front of that box of brownies? It's a beautiful picture of a brownie, right? It's the end result. On the back of that box is the recipe, right? Because we don't give a shit about the recipe, right? As long as we have the ingredients to make the brownie, we're good to go, right? That's what we want. And so we really need to sell the brownie and not the recipe. And this one is very hard to stay consistent at, I'll be honest. This one is like probably the hardest one to actually do. The others are pretty straightforward, but we struggle with this one, right? Because our programs and things our daily actions are so important to us, right? They are critical to success in reality, right? But when we're telling someone new about it, when our first impression, we just don't need to talk about those things. It just doesn't, no one cares, right? If you run a nonprofit, an organization, a business, right? Whatever you're doing, you need to sell the brownie and not the recipe. Is everybody good? I feel like I've rambled a lot already. Good, okay. So, to recap real fast, we have framing defines an idea in a way that you can connect with, right? So that's what we're doing over top of all this, right? And the ways we're doing that, we're priming, right? We're setting mental railroad tracks so we know where to go. We're making our brain do repetitions so we connect positive things with what we want to talk about. Then we're storytelling, right? We're telling personal stories, third-party stories, right? We're making people come in with familiarity and trust and where you're at already, right? And so everybody's at a different spot in their lives, and we can't have a universal message that works unless we are, making it so people can come in from where they are. I often hear about people trying to, when I'm working with clients and they're talking about communication strategy, they're often talking about let's figure out what's popular to say, right? We do polling and other things to do that. But figuring out what's popular to say is works at times if it's popular, right? But in reality, we need to make sure that we know how to make popular whatever it is that we need to say every single day. Because every single day we need to say something different in reality. So if we can make popular what we need to say, we're in a much better spot, and storytelling helps with that. So not quite, but it's all right. The last two, lead with their shared values, right? We need to lead with our shared values, not our problems, right? We don't want to be fun sponges. We want people to like what we're saying, right? And then the last one is sell that brownie and not the recipe. If you can sell that in vision, right? If you have a vision in the first place, also important. But if you have that vision, you can sell the end result, right? People get their license back and they can pick up their kids safely from school without going to jail to bring it back, right? This is an end result of the driver's license restoration program. So what now? As any good political person or marketer knows, you learn how to do a hard ask, or you learn how to do a call to action, right? And so I have a call to action or a hard ask for everyone in this audience, all 200 of you. What I need you to do is take these principles of framing that I showed you today. Take them out into your world. I need you to take them to your house. I need you to take them to your workplace. I need you to dump on your barista. I'm sorry for the baristas that are here. I need you to dump on the barista and make them care about something. I truly believe if we really want to live up to that everyone is welcome slogan that we talk about all the time in Indianapolis, then we need to make people care. If we care, things will get better. We will build a better community. So that is my ask for you today, is to take these things I'm talking about and take them out into the real world and actually use them. All right, thank you so much. That was my talk today.